This is the story of a giant, of its birth, of its growth, and its purpose and place on the American scene. The giant is an electric sign, colorful, active, beautiful, the product of Young Electric Sign Company of Salt Lake City, Utah, and Las Vegas, Nevada. Where does an electric sign have its beginning? Let's find out. First, you need a customer, someone who needs a sign to advertise their product or place of business. In this instance, an owner of a new casino to be called the Mint in the gambling center of Las Vegas. The story begins at the Las Vegas office of the Young Electric Sign Company, when an idea was born for what was to be the most beautiful sign ever to grace the skies of Las Vegas, showcase of modern electrical advertising. Mr. Herman Bernge and Kermit Wayne conceived a fundamental idea behind the sign. Suggestions, though, came from throughout the staff and were heartily welcomed. This practice ensures that we will come up with the best possible design. We worked especially close with architects Zick Sharp of Las Vegas, designers of the building which will house the Mint. Chief designer for Young Electric Sign Company, Ben Jones, masterminded the overall structural detail of the sign. The sign will be a giant of structural steel, neon tubing, incandescent lights, and electrical wiring. The idea was again discussed, changed somewhat, redesigned, and finally an acceptable rough came into being. The sign had to be the biggest, the brightest, the most beautiful sign ever. Letter style, color, design, method of lighting, all had to be taken into consideration, along with details too numerous to mention. And now, the artist's finished depiction in full color, ready for the customer's approval or disapproval. Hooray! Approval given. Now work can go ahead full speed. But now comes the tedious work in the engineering department. Ben Jones and Bob Gilbert worked out details of constructing and tying in the sign with the building. Engineering details had to be discussed with the art department, as everyone works together as a team. Miles of neon tubing began taking shape, were assembled for processing and mounting on the sign. Tedious work this, but expert work by craftsmen unmatched in their field. Each electrode, and there are 2 to each unit of glass, must be set in place by hand. The tube is pumped of air to make a perfect vacuum, and the rare gas neon is placed in the tube. Hundreds of pieces of tubing had to be welded together. Again, a process best accomplished by hand to assure strength and straightness. And then to the aging rack and a period of burning in. But the electrical department was also busily placing the light globe sockets and stringing miles of electric wire. Here again, the tedious but effective method of doing by hand ate up precious time. And another branch of the team, the steel construction department, was busily engaged in preparing steel frames for assembling, fitting, and so on. Everything must be exact to ensure proper fit when the sign is finally put together. As the work mushroomed, the confines of the plant became too small, and work moved to the outside yard. As the sections grew together, like the giant pieces of a puzzle, they began to resemble a miniature roller coaster. The vast amount of steel truss work is necessary for the sign to be self-supporting. And once all the truss work is done, the steel skin is put into place. The work is very much like building a living thing. The steel truss work representing a skeleton, the steel sheets of skin, and the electrical wiring providing the lifeblood of our giant. Of course, the sign couldn't be moved from our plants as one huge unit, so it was again broken down into sections. This also facilitates construction handling and transportation. These Pyrex spring bushings for the neon tubes represent a modern, convenient method of holding and lighting the tubes, and they facilitate speed in changing tubes. Color, vivid color, is applied to the sign skin in YESCO's modern spray room. Only the finest automotive synthetic enamels are used. They are necessary for the sign to stand up under the elements of sun, wind, and rain. And the color, picked especially to attract attention. Meanwhile, in Las Vegas, the building itself is taking shape. The contractor began to cast some weary eyes toward YESCO. Will the sign be done in time? It must be built right into the building to provide support for its weight, and opening night isn't too far away. But happily, some of the first sections were already on the way, rolling towards installation. And if need be, some things can even be speeded up to help out. But gradually, with the assembling of sections, their painting, addition of the neon tubing, and all things necessary, the units were ready for installation on the building. Only one thing threatened trouble. Our truck is capable of handling 2 sections at a time, and something has to be done. The Williamson truck body people of Ogden and Salt Lake came to the rescue with a specially constructed lowboy trailer which would carry as much weight as the truck itself. Thus, double loads made the trips faster and fewer. All in all, there were 7 such trips made, and the sign was ready for assembling and placing in position on the building. At the location of the Mint, first things to go up at the Mint were the arch sections and the letters on the front. But a lot of work goes on behind the scenes too, especially in the switching room. Here, the flashing mechanism for operation of the sign is installed. And now the big day arrives, the day of the big lift. Choosing probably the quietest hour of the 24 in the busy city of Las Vegas, 5 a.m., we move the sections of the sign onto the scene. With the cooperation of the Las Vegas Police Department, The street had been blocked off to prevent any early risers from becoming injured by becoming overly curious. After some testing, it was deemed advisable to bolt two sections together on the ground, weld them, and hoist the complete two sections into place with one lift. But now comes the big problem. The sign will rise 96 feet above the sidewalk, or nearly 10 stories into the air. This calls for something special, like construction of a special boom 140 feet high to make the lift. And all the time, our sidewalk superintendents are increasing in numbers. Fascinated by the boom, which tests a 150-pound weight that goes up and up and still up. And as the day progressed, the number of sidewalk superintendents seemed to increase. Of course, everyone stayed to watch. And finally, with our preparations completed, the boom okayed, the giant hook is attached, and our big lift is ready to commence. Some of the men climbed up the face to the inside of the sign. It would be their job to guide the sections of our giant into place. Up this high, there is no room for a misstep, something like walking the tightrope. Now, each section, as we told you, has been pre-engineered to fit like pieces of a puzzle, snugly into place. Sections rise into the air. They hover momentarily, and then swing into position. Hand lines or guy ropes are attached to each section to help in guiding it into place. Now, bit by bit, it is inched into place. And gradually, our giant grows into the Nevada sky. As the section bearing the word "the" moves into place, you will notice that some of the neon tubes are missing across the bottom of the section. They were removed to prevent breakage in moving and handling, and it was a simple matter to reattach the tubes to complete the design. Now comes time for the finishing touch to be added. The final section, the crowning star of our giant, is ready to rise into the sky. It moves slowly and gently, swings into the air. noises momentarily. And then slides gently into the socket prepared for it. The welder's torches quickly make it a permanent part of the giant, and a new star is born on Fremont Street. Well, several days were required to complete the job. Workmen scurrying in and out of the huge sign, wiring, inspecting, testing, and adjusting. In a giant which soars 10 stories into the air, it was necessary for our help to get from top to bottom and back again. Electric elevators assist men in moving up and down the face of the sign. And the door you see open in the front of the sign is what is called the bomb bay, a service door which allows men to enter the interior of the giant for servicing. And now the deadline is at hand. Tomorrow is our grand opening. On the eve of this grand opening, last-minute tests are conducted, and carefully our giant passes with flying colors. Now the moment is at hand. The last workman silhouetted against the setting sun of the western sky as he slowly begins to inch his way down the giant for the last time. Our giant is ready to welcome one and all to the grand opening. In true Hollywood, or perhaps we should say true Las Vegas style, searchlights comb the sky the night of the grand opening of the Mint, and crowds flock to the scene. On that memorable night, the 15,000 feet of floor space of the Mint is jammed to capacity. It is fabulous in the tradition of Las Vegas gambling establishments. The building which houses the Mint has some walls made entirely of petrified wood and murals adapted from playing cards, rich with wood paneling, together with modern hues. The Mint is not a casino alone for the enjoyment of its guests. There is a restaurant, snack bar, cocktail lounge, 2 bars, a barber shop, a gift shop, and of course the casino. And everything from racehorse keno to the slot machines with 21, craps, big 16, and roulette, and many others in between. Some 300 to 350 persons are employed, depending upon the season of the year. The general manager is Sammy Boyd, and the entire operation is under the guidance of Milton A. Prell, executive director. The Mint has an appropriate name, too, where approximately $500,000 in cash is kept on the premises to operate the establishment. Yes, in every way, the brightest star on Fremont Street in Las Vegas, Nevada, is one of the finest examples of modern-day architecture, decor, design in the world today. And all is topped by the beautiful sign soaring 10 stories into the air to advertise to the world the Mint. As far as statistics are concerned, each section of our giant weighs as much as a Ford or Chevrolet automobile, which points up the tremendous problems involved in support and design of the sign. There's over 6,000 square feet of sheet metal making up the face of the sign. This is covered with 61 gallons of paint, specially prepared to withstand the ravages of the element. Holding the giant supports together is 400 pounds of welding rod. All this raw material skillfully molded into one of the most beautiful advertising masterpieces in the history of electrical advertising. The brilliant sign is topped by the blazing star, which shines forth on Fremont Street, a beacon to beckon the holidaying crowds to the Mint. At nighttime, more statistics are in evidence. The star is lighted from the center out with 40-watt incandescent lamp globes, and each tip of the star radiates forth a beam from a 300-watt spotlight. There are over 3 miles of neon tubing in the face of the sign, and the front is lighted with incandescent lamp globes, 12,000 of them in all. Over 6 miles of electrical wiring carries life to our giant. And into this giant has gone planning, craftsmanship, the work of skilled men in many different fields. It took 5 months from first draft plans to the brilliance of opening night. Now this piece of modern-day craftsmanship finds a rightful place among the giants of modern-day electrical wizardry. In fact, most of the signs visible on Las Vegas' fabulous Glitter Gulch, as well as many more on the famous strip outside Las Vegas, had their birth and construction in the offices and plant of YESCO, Young Electric Sign Company. Our giant is something uniquely Americana, the product of the artistic engineering and constructing minds and hands of modern-day American industry. Young Electric Sign Company is proud to have placed the new star on Fremont Street and looks forward eagerly to producing future signs in the electrical advertising world.